So today we're going to talk about setting up your paper in MLA format using Google Docs. When you start a new document, you always want to give it a name. So I've just called this one MLA Doc. You can also control where it goes quite easily, where it's saved in your Google Drive. And so usually on a new document, it'll just say Untitled Document in Google Drive. If you want to change that, you can click this little move icon and put it in a specific folder for a class or a specific folder for a project. Next, we want to check on, oh no, let's talk about font next. MLA used to be very particular. Everything had to be Times New Roman 12-point font. It's not as strict anymore. I'm not as strict about it as long as you choose a professional looking font in 11 or 12 point. That's up to the teacher. So if you need to change your font, you would click here and here. Please, for a formal essay, do not ever pick kind of a cutesy, informal, curly Q font or try to make it bigger so that your teacher thinks your paper is longer. You're not fooling anyone. It just discredits you. Margins. MLA does require 1-inch margins. And so you want to go, sorry, I went too quickly, File, Page Setup, and just double check. That's the default, but if you've been playing around with the margins on other documents, it may not be set that way anymore, so double check. Don't try to make your margins bigger in order to make your paper look longer. That's another thing, like increasing the font size, that discredits you. Next, let's double space before we ever type anything. So this icon right here is line spacing with the up and down arrow and the 3 lines. Double space is not the default. I've just already set this one here. You want to click double. If you've already typed something in your paper without double spacing or without setting that first, make sure you Command A or select all before you click the double spacing so that the formatting will apply to everything in the document. Okay, next let's talk about the header. MLA requires a header, so we're going to start by inserting the page numbers, which are required. And so we're going to go insert and then page numbers, and this first one where we can see every page is numbered in the top right corner. There we go. In front of it, you need to type your last name. So for me, that's Martin, and you want to make sure there is a space between your name and the page number, so hit the space bar. You can leave the header just by double clicking outside of it, and now we're on the top line of the paper. Finally, MLA requires a heading on the left side. Make sure you are no longer in the header before you type this. Anything you type in the header appears at the top of every page, and we don't want that. The heading needs to be on the first page only. So you start with your name. Names go on top, and so we'll do first and last name, enter once, and then the teacher's name. With your teacher's name, if your teacher is a married woman, MRS period. If you're not sure, the safe bet is to just type your teacher's last name only. Or your teacher could potentially be a doctor, and you don't want to type MRS if your teacher's a doctor. And so the safest bet is to just type your teacher's last name. And so we'll say we're typing this for Mr. Smith. The next line needs to be the title of the class. And so be as specific as possible. English 9, period 1. If it's an honors course or an AP course, you can type that in front. Just look at the formal title for your document. Finally, the last line of the heading should include the date. And you want to do the date the assignment is due, not the date you started typing it, especially if that date is the day before the due date. It's another thing that discredits you. And so you'll type day, the day that it's due. So let's say it's due on the 20th, and then the month that it's due, and then the year that it's due. This formatting of the date does not require you to use any commas. After the date, we'll hit enter once, we'll center, and then we need to give the paper a title. Choose something that's appropriate for your assignment, and then we'll left align here, and from here we'll begin typing our paper, remembering to indent the first line of each paragraph as you go. If you need to set up a works cited, we'll do that in a separate video.